Welcome to Positive Vibes with Jan Boal, registered nurse and empowering guide.
Hey now, what's your story? Hey now, let's take a journey.
Hello and welcome to Positive Vibes. It's good to see you, Laura.
Good to see you, Jan.
Yes, I'm very happy to I've invited a longtime high school friend of mine. Well, sort of a friend. We went to high school together. We knew each other. And Laura has a really inspirational story that I want to be able to share with everybody. I remember Laura from our alma mater, Torrance High. Yay! And she was in drill team, and she was always, you were very athletic and very fit. And then life happens and things change and our body changes. But Laura decided to take the bull by the horns and do something to get her life back on track the way that she wanted it to be. So Laura, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Okay, so like Jan, like you said, I've always been athletic. I've done everything from snow ski to water ski, roller skating, tennis, running. I started running when I was in high school, and always was physically fit, always worked out at the gym. And then as I got close to 50, I just kind of stopped doing stuff. But I had torn the meniscus in my left knee when I think I was 42. And it was, I bruised my meniscus. I was 42. Then when I was 50, I tore it. And so I had surgery on my knee. And from about the age of 50, like for 10 years, I slowly gained about 40, 45 pounds because I lost the mobility that I could do anything. And I was just like, I can't do these things. Even though I probably could have done some things, I was just like, I didn't. So for 10 years, no activity. And I managed to gain, 45 or so pounds. So coming up to 60, so I retired at 60, and I always wanted to get back into shape. So I have this dog groomer that I go to, and everyone has one of these people in your life that they know everybody in the neighborhood and they know.
Right.
So Angela's her name. I asked Angela when I went in to take my dogs, I said, Angela, do you know of any trainers in the neighborhood? And she goes, absolutely. I worked at a gym for 20 years and there's a great trainer and his name is Lou. And I said, okay. So she gave me his name and phone number and didn't call him for like 4 or 5 months. 4 or 5 months went along. And then I met somebody else, a friend of hers who does upholstery cleaning, John. And he used to work with Lou. John came to my house to clean my upholstery. He said, hey, did you ever call Lou? And I said, no, I never called him. He goes, oh, you ought to call him. So me, in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Before I call him, I got to lose some weight, So
yeah,
then,
that's the way women work, right?
yes, I got to lose some weight, Did I do that? No. So probably a couple months later, I saw John again and he goes, did you call Lou? No. So then he texted me on a Tuesday. He goes, hey, I'm going to meet Lou in the gym on Friday. Why don't you come and meet him? And I'm like, okay. So I got up enough gumption to go in on a Friday and met Lou, great guy. And the next day, Saturday, I was in the gym and almost 2 years now, I've been working with him and he's changed my life.
Wow, that is great. And I love how I call it universe kind of does those little knocks on our heads, to say, okay, we're going to remind you again of this person, and just kind of those more signs to say, keep going, keep going. So that's really amazing. What inspired me about your story was the fact of our age, because as we get older and if we do sedentary jobs, things just get a little bit bigger around the middle and the hips and all that. And we also lose our muscle power and strength. And then we lose our motivation. And then we keep saying, yes, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Or like you said, well, I want to lose a few pounds before I go see him because, I don't want to look that bad. It's those goofy things that we do for ourselves. But, the seed was planted for you and you continued to go with it. So once you started doing that, after your first visit, was that your motivating factor for you after that? Or did you ever have a moment where you went, do I really want to do this?
I always really wanted to do it. And I think the turning point was before I saw my dog groomer. I was sitting on my bed, tying my shoe, leaning over, and I could barely lean over to tie my shoe. I looked over to the left, saw my silhouette in the mirror, and I started crying. I looked like I was 7 or 8 months pregnant. And I hate to say that, but that was true. I started crying. I'm like, I don't want to be like this, So
Right.
that's what motivated me to initially ask Angela, does she know any trainers? And then it just kind of went from there. I think the final thing was I kept thinking, you know what? Both of my kids, they lost their father about 10 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? I want them to have at least one parent, whether they like me or not. I want to be around.
Right. Yeah, that goes.
That's not fair. I want to be here, So that was
Right.
what took me over to the other side.
Yeah, we tend to really do a lot more for our kids than we do for ourselves, or it just helps give us that motivating factor, whether it's to quit smoking or to quit drinking or to quit cussing or whatever. We tend to want to do that for our own family as opposed to ourselves first. But I think that's because it's love. Love is a very strong motivating factor. And I just think that's absolutely, absolutely marvelous that you've done that. Now, what have your kids said since you started on this journey?
Oh, well, especially my daughter, she can tell a big difference, and because she lives here in Los Angeles area. At the time, my son was living in San Francisco, so he didn't see me that often. But being a guy, guys sometimes they just don't say things. But yeah,
That's right. Yeah, I kind of thought something was different about your mom, but I just kind of wasn't sure what. I didn't want to say anything.
and like your spouse or somebody, oh, I got my haircut. You did, So I don't know if his girlfriend, when I saw her, and she was here to Los Angeles, she made a mention, wow, you look really good. So, but my daughter always did. And my daughter's friends who hadn't seen me in a while, they were like, wow, Mrs. Adams, you look great. So that was nice. Even though my
Awesome.
I love you, Chris, if you're listening, but I think that's a guy thing.
Yeah. So has anybody else contacted you and said that you kind of inspired them and now they're going to start doing stuff? Because it inspired me to just keep up with what I'm doing, and that yeah, we can't give up. You don't use it, you lose it, and it's only going to get worse.
Right. No, I've had people on Facebook, mainly a lot of high school friends, a former coworker of mine and a friend. Actually, I don't know if this was inspirational enough, but I'll tell the story because it's funny. So one of my coworkers and a couple of other girlfriends came over. I think I'd lost like maybe 30, 35 pounds. And they came over to my house for happy hour. Hey, what better way to have happy hour? So anyway, so they hadn't seen me. And so when I opened up the door, one of them, Debbie, you know who you are. She goes, and I hope I can say this, she goes, you skinny bitch. And it was like,
Isn't that like the best compliment you can get?
well, I think I inspired her, but I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. That's wonderful.
From my
Yeah.
church, have said the same thing, and my neighbors,
Mhm.
wow, so that was nice.
Yeah, and you just never know where that. I love the surprises of what you hear from people that you didn't expect. Like, who would have ever expected that your dog groomer was going to change your life?
She
I
did.
mean, when you look at it, right?
She did, and also the upholstery guy, John.
Yeah.
He was at me more than my dog groomer. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John, for helping to take care of her. That's wonderful. What else did I want to ask you? So how has this changed you personally? Do you feel a difference in your, obviously you'd have some changes on how you feel in your body, but what about your mood, your endurance, your sleep, your outlook on life? Did any of those get changed for you?
Oh, definitely. I've always been a pretty happy person, but I'm a lot happier now. My sleep, you know, I don't know. I'm always waking up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night, but that's okay. But yeah, just my whole outlook. I just feel better. Just physically, I feel better. Mentally, I feel better. And when I gained about 15 pounds since January, but COVID, I think they're calling it quarantine 15, hit.
Yeah.
So I'm up, but now I'm coming down. And, but yeah, I mean, everything just kind of changed for me. I'm happier. I've always, like I said, I've always been happy, but I'm happier and it's a good thing. Like,
What did your doctor say? Has he seen you yet, or she?
but I have two doctors. So I have arthritis. So I go to an arthritic doctor. Now his response was, now don't lose it too fast, so, but they didn't notice it. And my regular doctor, she was like, wow, and when I did my blood work, it was like everything came down. Cholesterol came down, triglycerides came down, blood pressure came down, everything, all the numbers. And that was really motivational for me to keep on, to know. And that was just in a short period of time.
Right. Because also, too, what happens with us gaining weight and being sedentary is, which we all now know, there's an epidemic of diabetes. And the thing is, as we get older and we gain weight and we get diabetes too, the problem is it's called the silent killer because it's already doing damage to our body before we even know we have it, before we are even aware of the symptoms. So, and then diabetes then automatically becomes heart disease because it's just so hard on all the blood vessels and of the hardening and just you lose the elasticity and the circulation in your feet and everything. So yeah, it's a big win when you can prevent that from happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Any kind of movement, whether it's just twirling your arms or walking.
Hmm.
Obviously your food. The food is a bit now. So the food is, as Lou will tell everybody, the food is the biggest thing. You have,
Right.
say it's 80-20. 80% of your food and 20% of activity will, help you lose weight. So the food is a huge factor.
Right. No more eating McDonald's every day for lunch.
No, well, no, for me, so Lou looked at my body type. I have my weight in my stomach. So, which is the worst because it's closest to the heart and
Right.
heart problems. So I was a carb nut. I'd come home and eat crackers and cheese. I love chips and salsa. I love rice, potatoes, pasta. So cut out all of those bad carbs. That's what he did. I didn't eat a piece of fruit for like 8 months. Um,
Ooh.
and the sugar and carbs. So,
Right.
so
Absolutely.
it goes hand. And the only kind of bread I eat is sourdough because that has the least amount of sugar in it. So I learned a lot from Lou. Just I thought I knew it all, But
Yeah. We
Lou,
just don't know what we don't know. So therefore we think, oh, we know it all.
as the media or advertising, they sway you in one way where, yeah, this is whole wheat bread is the best. Well, not necessarily. It has more sugar in it than sourdough. So I'm
Hmm.
educated.
Right. And it's also looking at fiber. Fiber is you could eat good whole wheat bread that's got a lot of fiber in it. But if you're, somebody who loves to eat a lot of bread, then no, it's not good. But I didn't know that about sourdough bread because I'm telling you, I love sourdough bread and I don't buy it very often because then I tend to eat it more than I would just regular bread because I love to toast it and to put butter on it, and it's like, oh, wow. Oh, this only counts as one piece, and it's like this big. So yeah, that's good to know. So I can kind of have my cake and eat it too, but right. Yeah, that's good to know. And so you also were you a very big meat eater or fried food eater?
Not fried foods, but I learned from Lou there's nothing wrong with meat. Meat is good for you. because it has
Mhm.
enzymes in it and it's protein, and it's like I don't eat a lot of red meat, but when I eat red meat, it's the leanest. But
Right, right,
it's high protein, so I eat a lot of chicken, turkey, fish, red meat, pork. And because the
right.
protein will keep you, number one, it will make you healthier, but number two, it fills you up so you don't
It
feel.
satisfies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Whereas carbs do this. They go up and then they crash down. Whereas protein will keep a little more even keel. And the whole thing is always about moderation. Too much of anything isn't good. So if you just moderate it, and obviously it's about eating a lot of greens, and then you find out all the different other ways to eat greens. Now, what about beans? Because there's different sayings about beans. I love eating beans. I think it's a great source of protein. It's another way for me to not eat red meat because I eat a little bit of red meat, but because of how much it affects the environment, which is a whole nother show. But so I kind of eat a little less than that, and it's cost effective. Um, but there's some people say, oh, it's got too much carbs, but it's got so much fiber in it that I haven't noticed an issue with that. Did he say anything to you about that?
Yeah, beans for me are because they have fiber in it, but they bloat you. So
Yeah.
beans is not necessarily a good thing either. But
And I found it depended on the type of beans. The white beans don't bother me as opposed to the darker colored beans.
I think, I mean, I'm not a bean expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to really speak to that, but beans are kind of out for me because
Right.
I know that sometimes vegetarians tend to eat more beans because that's where you get your protein, but you have to eat
Mhm.
so much more in order to get your protein. It's not always a good thing. And too much fiber
Right.
is not a good thing. I think 26 grams of fiber is all you need during the day. That's what I've
Yeah.
read. So,
Yeah. And you don't get fiber when you eat regular bread and pasta and stuff, you know. Yeah, and I've always been a big brown rice eater anyway, as
yeah,
opposed to white rice. So, yeah.
you know, different sides of the story of where you are. Like if you're really working out in a competition, it's better to eat white rice because you're burning more calories.
Hmm.
So I just don't eat any rice anymore, and I don't miss it. No rice. No.
No, you don't. Yeah. Yeah. So, what is your exercise regimen?
So I started off working out with Lou, doing strength and weight training 3 days a week. That's what I started out with, and then I went to 4 days a week because I wanted to see, I guess more results quicker. But I love exercising, so I would do strength training with him 4 days a week, and then I do cardio. I got up to doing cardio 6 days a week.
Holy Toledo, girl.
This is when the gym was open. The gym, because I would do my treadmill, I do my elliptical, I do my speed bike, spinning bike. So I would be in the gym 6 days a week because I had the time. I was retired, and then COVID hit, and bam, the gym closed. So
Yeah.
the smartest man that I know who he is, he's a businessman. He's like, hey, I got to continue working. So we took the gym outside. So we went outside in the parking lot behind the gym, and
Hmm.
still did my strength training with him. So right now, I'm up to 5 to 6 days working out with him and 5 to 6 days doing cardio. But that's because I have the time.
Right. Right. And is it a little spendy?
A little what?
Is it a little costly?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Lou isn't free.
Right. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
worth it to me. That's my part
Right.
of the agreement. It's like now that I can't go out and do things that I used to do, go to the movies, go out to lunch with my
Mhm.
friends, you know,
Right.
I'm spending my money with him, which is the best thing to do.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Because yeah, you're not spending it on the other stuff that you used to do. You're not buying as much junk food. Yeah, and with COVID, that's true. You're not going out and doing other things. And it's the best thing, especially with COVID, to help your mood. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I worked
So
out with
you
before this, and I feel great. I always feel great after working out with him.
right. Yeah, you do because it's a great endorphin booster. and then your circulation is improved, and then you have more oxygen going, and so you're thinking faster. Yeah, it's just a win-win. But I am so impressed that you had decided, it's a simple little step, and what it is, we just have to decide to change our mind. And even though it may take a little while, or what I find is, one of the workshops that I lead is about losing the fear, because fear is debilitating. It keeps us from being who we really truly are and what our passion and joy is, because we're afraid of whatever negative tapes are going on in our head. But when you start with that, I think I'm just going to change my mind. And it only has to start with one thing. And and then next thing you know, your whole life is like different, or it's definitely better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And it was, by a little bit of nudging, from John and, and that helped. But yeah, but once you do it like me, it's always, whenever I've kind of stopped exercising and then when I start back, it's always been, once you start doing it, you feel so good, you want to do it again and again,
Right.
you know, and especially
Absolutely.
results. That's a huge motivating factor.
Yeah. And what I also love about this is that it's harder for us as we get older with getting, we just don't have the endurance. Everything is just slower and kind of muckier. So it is a little bit harder. And even what I find, like in the summertime, I ride my bike a lot. But as soon as I stop, I seem to lose it much quicker, my muscle tone and stuff, than I used to. So yeah, that's the other thing that I was so inspired by for you and in awe of, is that with our age, to do these kind of big hurdles is a big deal. It's different when you're younger and your metabolism is different and you have different chemistry going on in your body to where you actually are. It's that hormone growth hormone that gives you that extra boost in energy. But we don't have as much as we get older. So I just wanted to say I am very, very proud of you and happy for you. And I just think you're a great inspiration.
Well, Jan, thank you so much. But I had no idea what kind of effect I had on people, and especially you. When you instant messaged me and said you wanted me to do this, I was like, well, what do I? Why did she pick me? And then when I went on your on YouTube and saw, I think I'm like the eighth or ninth person. All the people that you've had on there are like all RNs. They're all medical professionals. I'm like, I'm not a medical professional. What do I have to offer? So that was very nice of you to see um, what kind of
Right.
impact I had on you. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Well, and the whole thing about my show is I want a variety of people. We all have something to offer one another. We all have a story. And my whole thing about positive vibes is the positive aspect of all these different things that can change our mind, body, spirit, environment, and energy. So, yeah, I have a variety of different people that I still have that I'm going to, interview on all of those different spectrums. And the more, you say layman person, I think the more heartfelt that story is, because it's speaking to all of us. It's like, yeah, I'm just an average Joe. And it's like, if she can do it, I can do it. So yeah, absolutely.
Never too late to start, even if it's
No.
those things of just walking around the block. Or if you can't walk very well, doing, arm exercises or waist exercises, just moving,
Hmm.
just makes you feel so much better.
And there's so many things too that are available online that's free that
Yes.
can help you, whether it's sit and be fit, or a yoga, or a gentle yoga stretch class, or Tai Chi, whatever. The world is our oyster, and for free. Now, I agree. I like kind of having my own um, trainer, because then you're kind of committed.
Your account.
But what you're right, it's a little easier to kind of say, I'm going to turn that show on later and do my exercise.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I just think, but it's still available. And I think as we start doing that, it increases our momentum and then we want to do more. And especially if we start getting feedback from people. I mean, who doesn't like positive feedback?
Yeah,
It's great for us.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So
Okay. Okay, Torrance hires. I'm putting a challenge out there to you. I want to see how many are going to kick up their game with some form of exercise and let Laura be your inspiration. I would love to hear from all of you. You can contact me on Facebook or you can contact me at jamboal.com, where you can also see my other Positive Vibes video shows, as well as on Positive Vibes YouTube. So I'm putting it out there for everybody. And Laura, thank you so much. It's been a real joy and a pleasure just because of it takes us back to our youth and where we are today. And I just applaud you. Thank you very much for joining me.
well, thank you very much for having me. I mean, I never ever would have expected this to happen to me. So I can lie on my deathbed now and say, hey,
I'm somewhere. I'm still always out there. That's right. Okay, well, I'm wishing you all joy and abundance in your life. And until we meet again for our next adventure, I would like to say be well, my friend, and thank you very much for joining us. See you later.
More positive vibes at janboal.com.